So not much of a mystery for you. I'm Graham Hughes. This is Politics Social, and it is Thursday, the 12th of December, 2024. We're going to be talking a little bit today about capitalism and communism for a laugh. Okay, so we're going to talk about both of those things. We're going to talk about the fact that both of those systems, which are either end of the ideological economic spectrum. So we have a situation in which we have this hyper individualistic view of everything where everyone just looks after themselves and, death to anyone who's different or any minorities or anyone who wants to do their own thing. Everyone's a drone. Everyone's an ant in the whole greater scheme of things. And then you have capitalism. Oh, hang on, no. I'm getting them mixed up, aren't I? Because they both sound very, very similar. So basically in one system, you have a small group of people who basically run everything and they have to do what they're told, and everyone else has to do what they're told by this small group of people who are, compared with everybody else, incredibly wealthy and powerful. So that's communism. No, hang on, there was capitalism. Oh, hang on. I'm getting really confused here. Can someone help me out in the chat, like the difference between capitalism and communism? Because at the moment, honestly, I'm really struggling to try and differentiate the two. So one is one where everyone's got nothing, right? We're all queuing for bread, and meanwhile, the people in charge are eating caviar and swanning around in big cars and private jets and going into space, right? Oh, hang on, no, that's communism. No, hang on, that's capital. Oh, and here's the thing: both communism and capitalism, left to their own devices, unchained, untethered to reality, both collapse for exactly the same reason. Because although people will say, oh, the facts don't care about your feelings, that's quite true. However, do you know what else doesn't care about your feelings? Communism and capitalism, right? And in a human-built system, a system that doesn't care how greedy you are, in fact, a system that rewards you for being greedy, is the downfall of both capitalism and communism. And we're seeing it now. We're seeing at least the discussion at the moment online about the fact that in America, over 600,000 people go into bankruptcy every year in America because of health debt, whereas everywhere else that doesn't happen, because why would it? So we've got a system that we need to rein in, whether it is capitalism, whether it is communism. And I find the swivel-eyed loons who scream from the rooftops for either one of those systems are so detached from reality, and also tend to be the people who will benefit the most out of those systems. But then the people who follow the people who go for those systems are the people who benefit the least. Do you know what I mean? Like people that they're shouting down to in the gutters below them, they're going, yeah, communism, it's a great idea. I have all the power and all the money, and you get fuck all. And if you complain about it, I'll put you in jail, right? And then you got the capitalists saying exactly the same thing. And I don't really, well, I'm going to say, like, I don't really know why people don't point this out more, but of course they don't, because it's not in their interests. It's not in their interests. Paul Ewan says, have a welcome back to UK Mystery Brew coffee. Thank you very much, Paul. I'm actually drinking tea at the moment, but in my Panama mug. little shout back to Panama. A little Easter egg there for you. But I'm in Liverpool at the moment. It was my dad's 88th birthday yesterday. It's 88. And I was going to do a show yesterday from the train station, effectively, or the pub. But unfortunately, it all kind of fell apart because Aid couldn't make it because his little daughter's ill. And because Aid couldn't make it, then I said to Mike, because Mike Dixon, he's got cancer. He's got bum cancer. Like it's a little bit more of a process for him to go anywhere than it is for the rest of us. So I said, look, Mike, leave it. We'll meet up next month. And then I got in touch with Tansky and said, listen, do you want to just leave it till next? So we left it. So we're gonna meet up again next month, probably on Saturday. I think it's January the 11th. So it was the 11th of December. It'll be January the 11th. So if you do want to come along and meet us in London around lunchtime on Saturday, January the 11th, put that in your diary because we should we should be around. Well, I should be. But pencil it in your diary, because I'm very reliable, I'll have you know. Yeah, so I couldn't do a show yesterday, and I apologise for that. Yeah, I felt really bad, because I'm like, no, I've got to do a show every day. Got to keep my hand in. Although the last month on YouTube, because I've been doing a fraction of the normal number of live streams, and because they've not been as professionally put together as we've become, as you, I hope, have come to expect on this channel. Yeah, my YouTube revenue has literally gone off a cliff. So I need to start building that back up again, and that starts tomorrow, when we'll have a episode of Mystery Brew in the Morning Brew in the morning. Maybe I'll do a last Mystery Brew, and I'll have the background, because I'll be back in my studio, so I'll have the green screen, and I'm in the background constantly changing, so you don't know where I am in the world. Or maybe you have to guess from the background. I'll keep changing it, and then when someone gets it in the chat, I'll change it to something else. That'll be quite fun, wouldn't it? Where in the world is Carmen Santiago? Is Graham Santiago. So listen, but yeah, I'm going to just read some of your messages first before I go on. I just want more capitalism, says Duke. Yeah, I know how you feel, mate. You didn't end up bankrupt from visiting a Soviet hospital. That's the difference, says Katrina. Yeah, but yeah, I was going to say yeah, but actually no, yeah, you're right. I mean, there are differences between communism and capitalism. I'm just saying that you're very basic. You're very, at the very least, strip away everything else. It is a minority of people, an oligarchy who run everything, and everyone else gets fuck all. And that is the system that we are heading towards all over the world. So today, the reason why I was thinking about this is the Koch Institute, or the Cato Institute in America, which is run by the Koch brother, because one of them died. Oh, what a shame. They're singing the praises of Javier Milei of Argentina for his economic miracle. And there's not an economic miracle in Argentina. There's an economic disaster which has plunged over 50% of the population into poverty. This is a country that 124 years ago was the richest country in the world per capita. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, and they were singing his praise, and I was just thinking, bloody hell! Like, how many people's lives do you have to destroy to win capitalism? To win the game, to win the board game Monopoly was invented by someone who thought capitalism was a terrible idea and wanted to show that it always ends in misery, which all games of Monopoly end in misery, even for the people who win. Yeah, it is a weird facet of day-to-day life, that you have these people writing for the Spectator, the Mail, the Express, the Scum, the Telegraph, the Telegraph, all these right-wing rags, people writing bullshit online, spiked online. You've got Twitter, which is now owned by the richest man in the world, who just wants to use it as his private troll kingdom to turn it into 4chan for capitalist lunatics. So it's not a surprise that people aren't talking about this particular weird thing, that the thing that they are most scared of, which is communism, apparently, is the thing that they're trying to achieve. I'll give some more examples. So you drive through America, and you will see the same building again and again and again. It's like, you remember Scooby-Doo, right? Remember, it was quite cheaply, those Hanna-Barbera cartoons were quite cheaply made. Was it Barbara or Barbera? I never know which way to pronounce that. But anyway, those cartoons, there was a whole slew of them, the Flintstones, Wacky Race, and things like that. And they would have as the background, like if they were running from the ghost or whatever, the background would repeat itself, because it was scrolling through so fast, and it was just a kid's TV show. It didn't really matter. But that background was just the same background repeated again and again and again. That's what it's like driving through America. And if the capitalists have their way, that's what it would be like driving through the UK. You would drive, and you'll see the same shops in the same order, the same fast food outlets in the same order, the same food on every street in the UK. They would have it so every cup of coffee tastes the same. They would have it so that every burger tastes the same. They would have it so that every bit of protein that you put in your body tastes the same as it does next door, next door, and next door, and next door. And I couldn't think of a more sort of communist ideal than the that the stuff we eat is all the same, no matter where we go. And this communist ideal has spread around the world through capitalism, because everywhere you go, there's a fucking McDonald's, there's a KFC, there's a Starbucks, and they're all selling the same stuff everywhere in the world, everywhere. It's really hard to avoid. Go through West Africa for a few days, you might be able to get away from it, but you get into Ghana, you get into Nigeria, and you'll see a McDonald's. There's very few places left on earth that have no Coca-Cola. I think Syria, maybe Cuba, but they probably have some secret deal with the Cubans that the government allow them to sell stuff to the Cubans when we're not allowed. I'm not allowed to. You're not allowed to by the US government, because that'd be trading with the enemy. But I'm sure that Coca-Cola are somehow. I don't know how, but yeah, you have not just these chain stores that are all the same, but, and I warn you now, I'm going to go on a little bit of a tangent. Okay, architecture. Fucking hell, architecture's shite. Modern architecture is so appallingly shite. Do you know why? Because it all looks the same everywhere in the world. No local materials, no local architects, no local story to tell. What's the building that represents Australia? The clitoral hood nightmare that is Sydney Opera House, which I think looks shite. I know you have been indoctrinated into thinking it looks lovely. It is shite. And I'll tell you why it's shite. Because it's an Australian building built in Australia, but it was designed by a Dane, by a white Northern European. Okay, Northern European white man came and designed the building for Australia. It says nothing about 50,000 years of Aboriginal culture, Aboriginal history. It says nothing. All it says is, I'm a white man from the north of Europe, and here's some shit for you to enjoy. And if you don't say it's amazing, then you don't understand good art. It's shite, right? You go right up to it. It's covered in those vertical tiles that you get in 1960s pisses. You know, the public toilets in the 60s and 70s all had those vertical tiles on, the white tiles, and they were all arranged in a grid vertically. You know those tiles? Yeah, it's covered in them, like the fucking space shuttle was. And inside, it's concrete. It's a concrete car park inside. That's what it looks like. It's got concrete ribs inside. And I don't know if you know anything about acoustics, but concrete's like literally the worst thing that you can have as acoustics, right? In a kind of concert hall type situation. So the opera house can't have opera in it. So to try and, I mean, effectively, you're trying to do an opera in a cave. A really, really ugly cave. And the inside wasn't even designed by the same guy that did the outside. The inside was designed by a committee commissioned by the Sydney Council. Sydney City Council. It's fucking awful. It is dreadful on every level. So do you know what they've done? Do you know what they've done to try and cushion the sound bouncing off the walls? They've put carpet on the wall. There's carpet on the walls. There's carpet on the concrete walls of the shitty clitoral hood building that is the Sydney Opera House. But, you know, one thing I do like about it, at least it's based on women's genitalia rather than men's. That makes a change, eh? Because all the other buildings are basically massive cocks everywhere, because all these buildings are designed by white European men everywhere in the world. Doesn't matter where you go, doesn't matter the colour of the people who live there, doesn't matter the culture of the people who live there, they're all going to look like giant penises that some white man from Europe has designed for you. Here you go, enjoy your big structures going into the sky, your big boxes in the sky. And the most damning, you know, the most damning thing I can say about sort of modern architecture is when Notre Dame burned down, they rebuilt it exactly as it was. Dresden Cathedral was completely leveled at the end of World War II. And it was left for 50 years by the Soviets because they didn't care. The Stasi government of the Eastern Germany at the time. And then when the reunification happened, they went, look, let's rebuild it. And they did. They rebuilt this amazing Baroque, beautiful cathedral exactly as it was. They didn't do that for the Twin Towers, did they? Why? Because they were fugly. Because they were fucking shit. Like, I mean, I'm sorry that people died. That's obviously awful. 3,000 people lost their lives on 9/11. But the Twin Towers in America, they were just boxes. They were just elongated boxes. That's all they were. No one's going to rebuild that. If it had been the Statue of Liberty, if it had been the Empire State Building or the Chrysler Tower, They had a bit of style to them. They had a bit of style. I mean, obviously the Chrysler Building is a massive penis, but you know, they had a bit of style to them. Not so the Twin Towers. They didn't rebuild them. No, well, just an office block, innit? Could have picked it up from America, dropped it down in Dubai or Papua New Guinea. Yeah, because that's what they build there now. No culture. And that is the triumph of communism. Everything looking the same, everything being the same. And then you've got the people. People all want to look the same. Like this is if you think about this for a moment, you're like, what the hell? So you have a huge billion-dollar industry in the West for white people who don't want to be white. They want to be orange instead. Well, they don't really want to be orange. They want to be brown, I guess, but the brown stuff that they buy to put on their faces turns them orange because it's a chemical that you're putting a chemical on your face to make yourself look more brown. I mean, good luck. Or you can go sit in the sun. Sun worshippers, go sit in the sun and make yourself more brown. I mean, the fact that the sun is a massive nuclear explosion in space and it's literally firing radioactive particles through your body at all times. And the more that you sit in the sun, the more likely you are to get skin cancer. But that aside, right, you know, they're trying to get, and then you go to Singapore where everyone wants to be more white. Not everyone, but you know, that's the billion-dollar industry in Singapore is skin whitening creams and staying out the sun. Because everyone looks the same. There's some kind of like ideal that is whatever. And people all want to look like that. And it's maddening because variety is the spice of life. And I don't want to travel around the world and see the same people. And it's all the same religion. And it's all the same buildings. And it's all the same food. And it's all the same drink. Everywhere you go, it's Guinness, French fries. I'm Guinness, great. Let's go to Ireland. Have some Guinness. Let's go to an Irish pub, right? There's always an Irish pub. Fine, whatever. But everywhere? Do we really need it everywhere? Can't we have a little bit of like, I don't know, the local ale in our ale house? No, we're gonna have Guinness. It's gotta be there. It's gotta be available for everyone in the world because of communism. I mean capitalism. I do find it like oppressive. I find it oppressive when you walk down a street in the UK and it's the same chain stores in the high street. I mean, a lot of our high streets are now boarded up because of the Tories, but I digress. Viva la différence. That's what I say. And that is an anathema to these people who think that communism is a good idea and people who think that capitalism is a good idea. But they both fall down because of greed. And I think that we are reaching, and I hope we're reaching the point now where people are waking up to the notion that capitalism isn't the be-all and end-all. And when the Cato Institute, you know, set up by billionaires in America who want to protect their money and keep the status quo and keep the rest of us down, when they are saying, oh, look at Millie, look what he's doing in Argentina. Isn't that amazing? He's made half the population live in poverty. You know, they've got no toilet paper. They're having to wipe their asses with their hands. And they don't even have any clean water to wash their hands afterwards. They don't have enough food. Their children are now malnutritioned. They don't have access to medicine. So they're dying of easily preventable diseases in 2024 in what was one of the richest countries in the world. Yeah. And that's the same thing's going to happen in America. You'll see it. You'll see it. Maybe, and I've spoken on this channel before about I don't like this idea that, well, things will get so bad that people will finally rise up and fight against the system, because that hardly ever happens in reality. But I feel like if we keep banging the drum now and keep pointing this out to people, that's our job. That is our job, right? Because we can do fuck all else, right? I haven't got the money. I haven't got the power. I haven't got the connections to do anything but point this shit out and go, isn't that a bit crap? Isn't it a bit crap that you can spend your life traveling and you would see the same thing over and over again, no matter where you were, like the repeating background from a Scooby-Doo cartoon? Can't we do something different? Can't we rethink and restructure the way that we live? If we're going to have individual countries, make them individual. What's the point of having your own flag and having the martyr's blood on it for the independence of your nation? If your nation's just going to be a carbon copy of someone else's, you know, have some individuality. And if we're going to protect people's languages, which I do really agree with, they're going to protect the dance, I guess, and their costumes. Let's protect their sports. Let's protect their architecture. Let's protect the other thing, their art, so that all modern art isn't the same everywhere in the world. It doesn't have to be. And let's celebrate the art that we do have. One of the most frustrating things about living in Australia is the casual racism. And the second most frustrating thing is the fact that you have all this Australian Aboriginal culture that the white Aussies just don't appreciate at all. And it's so frustrating, because when I think of Australia, I think of boomerangs, which are Aboriginal. I think of line paintings, line and dot paintings. I think of wobble boards and didgeridoos, which are Aboriginal. Okay, the didgeridoos, Aboriginal instruments. That's Aboriginal music. And yet the Aussies don't seem to consider this like their culture. The white Aussies go, oh, I have a tinny, which is a beer, and a barbie, which is a barbecue. Yeah, and cricket. And I'm like, literally every other country has that, if they want. I mean, I know not every country plays cricket, but barbecues are not unique to Australia. And in fact, barbecues were only invented in the 1950s as a way of getting men to cook. That wasn't seen as gay. Yeah, that's true. That's actually why they invented barbecues. They went, men don't like going in the kitchen because it's seen as effeminate. So let's have them cook in the garden, and then that's manly. And loads of people don't even think about this, but that's the psychology. That's the one of the main people who introduced a lot of the tropes that we regard now as like standard advertising marketing shit. That's psychology. He was the nephew of Sigmund Freud. He the father of psychoanalysts, psychoanalytics, whatever. He looked at this stuff. He just went, what? I can get people, I can manipulate people into believing all kinds of crazy, believing they need this thing. Do you know what I saw in Canada? I saw a Cybertruck, and I thought, that looks ugly as fuck. But it's a monster. I mean, I didn't realize how big they are. They're just big, hideous monsters. And the reason people like them is the same reason why they like cars that make lots of noise, because they want to go brum, brum, brum. Look at me. I'm a very special boy. The reason why certain males would like to drive around in the Cybertruck, even though it's fugly as fuck, is because it's the same reason why girls going to prom want a really pretty dress that they're only going to wear once in their life, or getting married. They're going to wear a really pretty dress to get married because they want to be the center of attention. With a marriage, I guess that's just for the day. I mean, with the prom, that's just for a day. But with a Cybertruck or something like it, it's like, brum, 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 look at me. I want to be the center of attention. Now, I kind of get that mentality. Don't know if you've noticed, but a bit of an extrovert. However, at least in my own defense, I have the good sort of sense, or the empathy. I should say the empathy. I have the empathy to understand that what I think of as like, oh, this would be cool if everyone was looking at me. Yeah. I also understand how much stress and anxiety and the horror it causes other people for whatever reason. Okay. But yeah, there are people out there. They're just like, look at me, look at me, look at me. I need to be the center of attention. And for them, if they're untalented, like if they are a brilliant actor or an amazing singer or whatever, then fine. Center of attention because you're entertaining people, right? These people in the Cybertrucks aren't being entertaining. No, they're being obnoxious, and everyone has to look at them. And we go, oh, look, it's a giant metal skip that's moving for some reason. And everyone's looking at them and like, oh yeah, everyone's looking at me. Everyone's looking at me and my giant metal skip. Yeah. I'm the prettiest Miss Pretty in the whole of this little redneck village, redneck town. Anyway, so yeah, that's capitalism again. It's that thing of making people think they need things that they don't actually need. What we need is a social cohesion. That's what we need. We don't need Cybertrucks. We don't need everything to be the same everywhere in the world. And the reason why communism fell was because of greed, was because people got greedy. The people in charge had too much, and the people who didn't have anything had too little. And that happened everywhere around the world. You can point at the Soviets, but it happened everywhere where they tried communism. The Castros in Cuba didn't live in poverty. They lived in palaces, mate. He lived in a literal palace. Come on, be sensible. I mean, the rest of the people have to suffer for their ideology, and we are suffering now because of the ideology of the oligarchs who run capitalism. And they tell us, oh no, but you get all this choice, but everything's the same. Everyone's phone now looks the same. Everyone's telly now looks the same. Everyone's got the same channels and the same downloads, the same. Every film that comes out, once in a blue moon, they'll actually make something original. But usually it's not. It's just the same film over and over again with different actors, and which is getting it's getting a bit worn now, isn't it? It's getting a bit worn. Anyway, I just want to say hello to everyone. It's all about egotism, says Ernie. It absolutely is. Good seeing you and your dad on Facebook. Get well soon, Supertansky. It's a snake eating its tail as the cost of living is ultimately paid by the labor cost of the employees. Yeah, Barbera. Yeah. I thought it was Barbera. Because people say Hanna-Barbera, and I'm sure it's Barbera. But there you go. Like Demolition Man, where there was only one food joint. Yes. And people listen to jingles. I think of Demolition Man a lot at the moment because of the fact that the jingles, the Christmas jingles, all the same. No one's written a decent Christmas song in 30 fucking years. The last one arguably was All I Want for Christmas Is You by Mariah Carey. Since then, what have we had? We've had one sort of one-hit shit wonder by The Darkness, and we just don't do Christmas songs anymore. I know the Sabrina Carpenter's got a Christmas album out, but there's no bangers in there. And so we're hearing the same jingles, the same Christmas advertising jingles everywhere we go. And it's like, oh my God, thank you for playing this song. I've only heard it 1,000,000 times in my life. God, I nearly forgot for a second that it's a terrible earworm that I can never get out of my head once it's in there. Fugly as Orc is correct. Apparently, wearing a snood makes me look gay, which is half untrue. Yeah, but I mean, there's no problem with looking gay. This is the thing. Like nowadays, especially with younger people, they'll just embrace it. They'll be like, yeah, and I mean, I don't understand how any, how anyone who values this perceived idea of masculinity can wear those plastic clogs that people wear. The ones with the holes in. What are they called? I forgot what they're called now. But if you want to look like a manly man and you're wearing these clogs, these plastic clogs with the holes in, it's like Swiss cheese clogs, but they're made of plastic. How fucking hideous! Like how look, I'm a manly man. I'm wearing. I wish I knew the word for it. Someone's going to tell me in the chat now. Crocs. That's it. Thank you, Sarah. How anyone who values the idea of their the perception of their masculinity can wear them, it's just beyond me. I mean, the taste aside, it's just like. Could you imagine, in a movie, you've got, I don't know, Conan the Barbarian or Rambo or Rocky or something, and they turn up and they're wearing these plastic fucking clogs. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I like the outfit all the way down, they're there in the little Speedos or whatever, the muscles and the tattoos all down their arms. I'm a manly man. And then they get to the bottom, they get to their feet and they're wearing these fucking plastic clogs. I mean, come on, seriously. But they sell, people buy them. Swiss cheese shoes, yes, they've got holes in. They're like clogs, but they're made of plastic and they've got holes in. I mean, it's like someone picked up a clog and went, can we make this look more ugly? How can we make this look even worse than it already looks? This fucking wooden shoe, this sabot, from which they get the term sabotage, because people put their sabots into the machine. The Luddites put their wooden clogs into the machines, and they were called sabots, and that's why we have sabotage. Xmas songs should be restricted to 1 week. Jeannie, if I had my way, right, all music that's more than 5 years old would be deleted forever. That's it. Like that movie Yesterday where no one can remember the Beatles songs. I think that's great, and that's what we should do. And I love the Beatles, but it's like all the air is taken up by this back catalogue, the old stuff, and the new stuff has no room to grow. It's got no sunlight, it's got no oxygen, because it's all taken up by these bloody songs being played again and again and again. And it's fine, I've already heard it. It's fine, I've heard it. It's fine. The The first 1,000 times wasn't too bad. The second 2,000, they were the worst. I mean, the third 3,000, oh my God. Anyway, but yeah, you're thinking of Crocs. Right, I'm going to have to get going. Guys, I've got to get back to Durham. Shit, look at the time. My train leaves in 20 minutes. Right, okay, so in conclusion, I'll say that capitalism and communism, very, very similar, two cheeks of the same arse, and they both require the same thing, which is socialism, which is, somewhere in the middle, that allows there to be a little bit of state interference, but and what that does is it keeps the companies in line who would otherwise just screw us all. And then you've got, the other side of that, which is that, the government can't run everything. They can't micromanage your life. They can't decide who you should be allowed to marry and what you should be allowed to do with your own body. That would be overreach. So I want some level of what they call libertarianism in America, but it's weird. And a country that goes on about libertarianism so much, which is basically anarchy for rich kids. But they're like, we should be free to do what we want. And it's like, okay, abortion. No, not that. Okay, can we be free not to have the 10 commandments in our classrooms? No, not that. No. Those things are compulsory. What? Abortion's compulsory. No, not being allowed to do it. That's compulsory for some reason. Anyway, right, I will return in the morning at 9:30 for morning brew, the first morning brew for a month. So please come join us for that. 1 o'clock, we've got the agenda with me and Phil Morehouse. We'll be talking about what's been happening in British politics over the last month. And then in the evening, tomorrow evening, 9:30, so directly after Maximilian's finished his show, we'll be doing the Friday night social. So please join us for that. And it should be a star-studded episode because it's been a while. Okay, so thank you very much. Thanks to Diz, thanks to Blue Badger, thanks to Ian McKenna for saying Santa Israel, obviously Santa Israel. And until next time, I'll say thanks for watching. Hello, good evening.